The problem is that the world is organized by nations. Now, let's suppose that while we are talking, you and me, somebody lands from a planet and say to us, what are you doing? We exchange views. Views about what? About governance. Ah, and what is governance? Well, governance is the system through which you regulate societies, possibly for the better improvement of societies. Why? You have societies, yes, of course, and now they're organized in nations. And what is a nation? A nation is a space occupied by people who have common identities or common history, things that make them distinct from other people. This is the basis for a nation. Ah, and how this nation organized? Oh, that's the United Nations we put together this at the end of the Second World War to avoid the repetition of a world war, for which you have a Security Council, which is in charge of the security of the nations. Ah, very interesting. How does it work? Well, these are 15 countries, 5 are permanent because they were the winner of the World War, and 10 are elected every year. Ah, what is peace? Peace is that we cannot make war against us, among us. And what is war? War is the use of force with adequate technology beside human nature to win over the adversary. Ah, so you make war with adequate technology, weapons, yes. And where did weapon come from? Well, 88% come from the 5 permanent member of the Security Council. The guy coming from a planet would fly back saying this is society which has no sense. United Nations has been slowly deprived from any instrument of power because the great powers have been doing so. The two instruments of globalization are finance and trade. Trade, they took out trade from the United Nations, creating the Organization of World Trade, which is not part of the United Nations. Finance was never in the United Nations. Since the beginning, it was a different system, creating Bretton Woods, and none of the institutions of that system have any power on globalization. Finance is totally unregulated. It's the only sector of human activity without any regulation.
Mhm.
So this finance, globalized now, is not any longer the grease of the economic system. Went out at its own life. It has no rules. It creates a casino where now water is quoted in the stock exchange. I wonder when air will be quoted in the stock exchange. The patents on life, like the vaccine, show you that we are giving to finance and to profit even life, which is not a manner of affair. It was not like that until 40, 50 years ago. And in all this unregulated casino, finance is able to control countries. The budget of finance is several times superior to the budget of countries. Today, for every dollar of trade of things which have been made by a man, both services and both goods, there are $40 of finance transaction. So the finance transaction is $40 bigger than the real economy. And is totally delinked by real economy. The stock exchange goes without any relation with economic reality. In the time of the big crisis of pandemic, stock exchange went up. And we have so many examples of this. So my point is that the international law is what is in crisis. We came out with the idea that international law was an instrument to regulate international relations. And we built the United Nations on that concept and to create a number of instruments all based on international law. Today, international law is not any longer an undisputed instrument of international relations. On the contrary, you have countries who do not even accept international law, that say that this is a Western instrument, beginning from Erdogan to Bolsonaro or Orban. Orban in Hungary said that he believes in illiberal democracy. He was expelled by the People Party and is now setting up a extreme right-wing international, which does not recognize international law. There is an agreement on migration, we don't care. There is an agreement on women's rights, we don't care. There is an agreement on LGBT, we don't care, and so on. So it is the idea of the international law which is in crisis. The Declaration of Human Rights could be subscribed today. Could be the United Nations create today? No way. Until Trump, there was absolutely no way. Now Putin would set up a United Nations. She would set up a United Nations. I doubt it would be a different United Nations. It would be a kind of. Don't forget that G6, G7, G20 have all been created to take out from the United Nations the place of debate and decision. So we have a crisis of the international law as a concept, that countries have rights, that countries form a part of a voting consensus, and so on. And I think this is the real problem we have. And we cannot have a global governance if we do not accept to have some global values, some common values. And we have lost these common values. These common values are gone. Today there are fragmentation of values according to local interest and the use of brilliant politicians to use the people to get to power and stay in power. And I think this is a very, very serious problem for democracy. And what worries me is that while the young people mobilize against this, they do not structure formula of confrontation which are of the same level of representativity and force. This is my problem. I hope it will come. I hope it will come. But for the time being, this is not the case. Look, the big movement of Black Lives Matter. It moved millions of people. Me too. And we moved millions of people. But they had to look for some representative in the parliament, the Congress, who would listen to them and become their spokesman. But they have never been elected spokesmen. They did it because either a few believed in the issue or the majority saw that as a way to get more votes.